Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review. Well, I know I haven't done a review in a while because I've been busy doing other stuff, so I haven't done a video. Excuse me. I haven't done a video review of a movie for a while. So I'm gonna do one now. I'm gonna do a movie. Well, I don't know if you consider it a classic. Well, at least from a classic movie year of 1984. And I'm gonna do a review because it's really the last really good, or at least halfway decent college slash sex uh, comedy, and of course it's this stereotypical Revenge of the Nerds, and this was a hugely popular movie. I think it might have been the highest grossing uh, R-rated comedy in 1984. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it was. Of course, the movie starts with Robert Carradine, Anthony Edwards from 10 Years Later, who was starring Eeyore. Also had Tim McGinley and John Goodman also in this film. Also Timothy Busfield and a whole bunch of others you like to forget actually star in this film. Um, because this film is, of course, like I said, it's a typical college sex comedy, which we'll get into in a moment. Well, the premise of this film is you have, of course, Keith Carradine, um, Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards play two high school friends, who are starting the first year in college, and they go to I think it was the fictional Adams College, and I'm not sure what state they're in because most of these movies were actually based in California, so you pretty much guess it was California. And of course, they joined up with other nerds or misfits, and so some of them all stereotypical nerds. You did have this one guy who was like an Asian guy who was like a stereotypical Asian nerd. You did have a homosexual black nerd. And of course you have this nearsighted redhead played by Timothy Busfield. And you have of course this little like 11 or 12-year-old kid who was like really advanced and kind of like a Doogie Howser type kid who goes to college when they're 12 years old. And of course the two main characters. So they get to the dorm, and they eventually get kicked out of their dorm because of the football team who they're in their own fraternity, the Alpha Betas. For an accident, which I'm not going to say why, it only happens in a comedy like this. They burn down the frat house, and they said, "Okay, what are we going to do?" And they decided to take over the the dorms. Of course, that's what people don't. Well, not in the fraternity. They live on the college campus, and they kicked all of them out, including, of course, the nerds, because they live all these nerds, or the main characters are nerds, and they kicked them all out. And so, of course, they're all living in the gym, and including all the other people who are living in the dorms, they're all living in the gym, or sleeping in the gym. And of course, they decide, all right, when we join fraternity, at least we could have a room in one of the fraternities. So all of them get accepted in the fraternities that's on the campus, except for these nerds. And the reason why, of course, they're not accepted is because they're nerds. You know, what do we have a nerd in our fraternity for? So, what happened? So, of course, what happened is that they decided to, after being rejected by the fraternity, they decided to form their own one, or at least have a chapter of a fraternity that's not on campus. So, I figured, okay, we in this fraternity. And the only one they accept them is the one they didn't send a picture of themselves to, and it's Lambda Lambda Lambda, and it had to be an all black fraternity. And so at first they didn't want to accept them at first. And said, look, we have a 60 in your bylaws. We have a 60-day uh try 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 out for 60 days, a trial period. So okay, we go for the 60-day trial period, and then we negotiate and see how it works out. And then the head of the Tri Lambda fraternity, or at least the president of the whole uh, Tri Lambda, saw how these guys were treated, and he says, "Okay, we'll accept you, but not at first because they, okay, after a party they had, or the nerds had, they decided to, which is like the high for me was like the highlight of the movie and the funniest part of the movie, when they go and they do a panty raid at the uh, girl and this girls fraternity. And this girls fraternity, I forgot the name of it. Um, they were in cahoots with the alpha betas, the athletes, and most of these girls were like the cheerleaders. And one of them, Debbie, um, the Robert Kennedy character has the hots for her, but she has the hots for the Tim McGinley character. At least in the story of the movie. And of course they were in cahoots and then putting all these pranks on the nerds. So the nerds decided to get even, and they went into the girls' dorm where they had the girls' fraternity, and they did a panty raid, and they put in cameras, and they climbed into the ceiling, and they put in cameras, so closed circuit cameras, and they hooked it on their TV, and of course you see them, and this is where you have most of the nudity in this film. You see all the girls, including the Debbie character, which of course it's not bad to see. It's not bad to see any of these girls naked, by the way, because they're all hot. There's not one ugly. Out of this all girls returning, which the nerds get even with, they're all hot. They're all smoking hot women. And of course that's where they get the R rating, because for warning here, you do see everything. All the body parts, even top and bottom, female anatomy, okay? Um, So of course, I think the girls never found out that they had the cameras in the dorm, which is pretty funny in itself. But they did get caught doing the panty raid. And the other prank they did was they put like this liquid heat stuff on the athletes' jocks, on the jock straps. So when they called up the head of the fraternity they were planning to get in with, they said, "You did what?" Is it? Is it? Well, we put liquid heat on that what? On the jock straps. So of course the head guy's name was UN, United Nations. He thought it was hysterical. So after that, he said, "Okay, we'll let you guys in. We accept you guys as a charter for Adams University." He said, "Okay, great." And of course, now they have their own fraternity, and pretty much for the rest of the film, they have what you call like this Greek council, which the nerds try to get into. So if they win this homecoming carnival, they'll take over the Greek council and they can set their own rules and punish the alpha betas for treating them like shit. Thank you. Um, it's hard to do a review when you have your windows open and you get the street traffic. Anyway, you have now that's my train of thought. So now you have this homecoming carnival stuff going on, which of course the nerds of course eventually do win. Spoiler. So the alpha betas, the jocks, the football, which was pretty much the school's football team, and the coach was played by John Goodman in one of his early movie roles before Roseanne, actually. Because I don't think Roseanne started yet in 1984. I think it was a couple years later. Anyway, you tell them, look, you should be you're embarrassed. You embarrass me. You embarrass the school by losing to a bunch of nerds. He actually screamed like that by a loud voice. And of course, they all get pumped up and they go to the nerds' fraternity house, and they tore it apart. It looks like they literally dropped a bomb on their house. So Anthony Edwards got pissed off and was to confront the team and get into a fight with them. And the dean of the school says, "Alright, that's enough." And then, of course, the black fraternity comes along and helps the nerds out. And then of course they have a big speech, and it's pretty much how the movie ends. Um, but the movie itself, it is still, to me, it's still a likable comedy, as silly as it is. Of course, by the time of the movie, you know that the nerds are going to win out at the end anyway. Uh, but it is enjoyable. And it is kind of like a fun movie. Fun movie to watch. Even though you could argue that it's dated because it's 31. It's a 31-year-old movie, so you could argue that it's dated. But it's still fun. To me, it's still fun to watch. There were other sequels involved. Um, but of course, to me, one of the funniest scenes in the movie is during the carnival scene where the nerds always were using their smarts, trying to one up the alpha betas. For example, they gave the Japanese guy, uh, some kind of a pill so he won't get drunk on the alcohol and wins in little tricycle race. Um, then they have another bit where they have a booth contest, a charity booth thing. And of course, the alpha betas were doing a kissing booth, which is always a big thing. Um, Big thing to do. But the nerds would start selling pies. So how can they may make but like 2 or 3 times the amount that the alpha betas were making. And they said, "Oh, how come they're making us so much?" And then they realized they put nude pictures of the girls in this girl fraternity underneath, the pie. If you eat the pie, and that's the name of the fraternity, the pies. And so you eat the pie, and you say, "Hey, there's a girl under here." And so it's hysterical. Of course, the other funny part is that after during the kissing booth, one of the girls, girl Benny, she said to Ted McGinley's character, "Look, I'm kissing so much now, no, I'm so horny. Let's go have sex." And Ted McGinley says, "No, I'm not in the mood now. Get out of here." And so she goes into the fun house, and the Robert Carradine character follows her in, and he steals Ted McGinley's uh, it wasn't exactly Darth Vader, but it's like a Darth Vader ripoff costume. He follows her in, and then of course she recognizes him for being in the Darth Vader costume. Oh, you ready now? Because yeah, that's the same way. And so when you take your mask off, I said, "Nah, I want the mask on." And he doesn't say a word, just goes like, "Nah, maybe the mask on." He goes, "No." And he says, "Oh, you're being a little kinky here, okay." And then they have sex, and she goes, "Wow, that was the greatest sex I had in my life," and all this stuff. And then she takes the mask off. She goes, "You're that nerd." He goes, "Yeah." Wow, can all nerds have sex like that? He says, "Yeah, well, the problem with the jocks is they only concentrate on sports. We concentrate on sex." And that line actually worked on her. And then, of course, when the nerds won, and of course, actually, they were thinking about getting the alpha beta to try and get even with the nerds. And she said she broke off with Tim McGinley's character, and that really pissed him off, sent him over the edge. And then when she walks off from him, she said, "I can't believe I'm in love with a nerd." But unfortunately, the funny thing, I think the Benny character was in I think she was in the second film. Um, I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen the second movie. Because the other movies were awful. In the Nerds movie series, they were awful. That's why I'm only concentrating on the first one. And they were terrible. The sequels, they were terrible. Because the funny thing, we captured the fun and they had in the first movie and it just didn't work. The only fun is that in the second movie, you did have Courtney Thorne Smith in the movie, who later on, of course, was on TV with uh, Corey in the Gym, Melrose Place, and she did star in the first movie I ever reviewed, which was Lucas. But other than that, I mean, the rest of the movie series you could just forget about. They're terrible. That's it with the first one, because the first one was fun. Um, I still consider it fun to watch. Even though it does play like a sex comedy in a way, but it works. for some reason, everything works in this movie. Now the comedy works, the story works, and it actually does have a story, which I like. One problem with these movies, or these sex comedy college films, most of them don't have a really good plot. And this one actually did have a plot, and you do feel sympathy for the nerds in the film, and you just wanted to see the football team get comeuppance in this movie. That's why, to me, uh, at first I didn't go see it when it originally came out in 1984 because I was too young to go see it. I was only 13 at the time. So I didn't originally see it, but I saw it on cable and I thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny. And of course, actually, one of the more popular characters to come out of that movie was Booger. And of course, there was a guy who always, picks his nose throughout the whole movie. And the Japanese guy says, "Oh, how come they call you Booger?" I said, "I don't know." And he has his finger up his nose. I mean, come on. And he also says, "Oh, not the moose, a bunch of pigs." And he's standing there with his finger up his nose. Uh, I mean, it's, like little funny gags, which if Revenge of the Nerds was made today, it wouldn't work. But in 1984, all the jokes worked and the film worked. Uh, and it's still kind of like I just recently saw the movie the other day, and it just to me worked. And it's also a piece of nostalgia really because it came out uh, the year we did the same year of Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom and Ghostbusters and Star Trek 3. It came out in the same year as those movies, and that was like I think it was like number one comedy if I'm not mistaken. At least the number one R-rated comedy. And like I said before, all the jokes worked. The storyline worked, the characters worked, and also you had a lot of tits and ass in the movie, which is also good. You had a lot of female nudity, which was great. You also had Anthony Edwards when he actually had hair, which, and of course, if you know what I'm talking about, if you've seen ER, he didn't have any hair left by the time his character was killed off on that show. So, but anyway, the movie just worked. And also you had, I forgot to mention, you also had James Cromwell, who years later worked with the Talking Pig. Played the father, I think, of Robert Carrady's character. But, the movie is fun to watch, and I still, recommend anybody to see that film. Because it worked. Just worked. That's my review of Revenge of the Nerds. I'm not gonna, like I said before, I'm not going to do the other Revenge of the Nerds movies because they're awful. Number one, I haven't seen them in a long time, so I rather rewatch the movies to remind myself of it. Number one. And number two, they all sucked. The sequels suck. Avoid the sequels. If anybody's interested in seeing it, that's for the sake of seeing it, it's perfectly fine. But but the movies, I have to warn you guys, the other Revenge of the Nerds movies, except for the first one, awful. Just terrible. So let me review Revenge of the Nerds. Please click on the video, please rate it. Feel free to comment on. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. And one more thing, let's go, Matt! Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.